We'll call the meeting to order. Those willing and able, please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Do I have a motion to approve the agenda with additions and deletions?
So moved. Second.
Have Katie.
Katie and Randy.
Okay.
Any discussion? Any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor of approving the agenda signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign. Hearing none, motion passes. Move on to 4, public forum. Deb, is there anybody?
No.
Nobody in public forum? We move on to 5, presentation.
None.
None there? Okay. Number 6, consent agenda. Is there any discussion there? Any discussion on consent agenda? Hearing none, do I have a motion to approve the consent agenda?
Lance and Marcy.
Okay. All those in favor of approving the consent agenda signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign. Hearing none, motion passes. Move on to financials. 7.1 elementary building budget year-to-date. Jackie.
Okay, I just put this together, basically reconcile everything, and this is where we're at as far as the construction project goes.
Okay. Are there any questions for Jackie? Any questions?
Those are a little bit bigger than, a lot of work's being done, and people are starting to come to more completion of the project. I think we got one pour left on the concrete, so there's just bigger bills that are being paid, so, but overall, that's where it's at.
Okay. Move on to, that's a non-action. We'll move on to 7.1.1, review of elementary building bills. Are there any questions on the elementary building bills? Any questions? Hearing none, we move on to 7.1.2, approve treasurer's report for elementary building bond for August. Are there any questions of Jackie? Any questions for Jackie? Hearing none, do I have a motion to approve the treasurer's report for the elementary building bond for August?
So moved.
Randy, do I have a second?
Second.
Brad? Okay. All those in favor of approval of the treasurer's report for elementary building bond for August signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign. Hearing none, motion passes. 7.2, review of budget year-to-date. Jackie?
Some of these line items, you'll see that, like, one is 2,000 some percentage. Some of these line items are off, and they're going to be. I talked to Mr. Enerson, and we're going to do budget amendments in December. A lot of these line items are what the way they do because of money we're spending on COVID. And of course, I don't have any of the revenue in there, so when I do the budget amendments in December, I'll add the additional revenue and I'll add the additional expenses.
We've got 3 funds, the Coronavirus Relief Fund, CRF. We have the ESSER Fund, which is the elementary and secondary schools education relief. And then we have the GEAR funds, which is the Governor's Education Relief funds. So we have those 3, and the CRF is due by October 1st, the budget and everything. We've completed that. That's $312,000. So we now are getting access to that. So, that's why I said we'll probably just wait till December to do these budget amendments, which we normally don't do, but we have these revenues that are coming in. We've had a lot of expenditures, so that's what will be happening, I think, in December. We'll also have the ESSER, and I think we got the GEAR completed too, so we'll see when we're able to draw down on them. But we do have about $500,000 in revenue, available to the school district that we'll have to account for, so.
Yeah, we'll see. The gear they're still looking at, Esther, I don't know where they're at.
Well, they've told us, ESSER, we can claim out until 2022, I believe, or
Right.
September of 2022. It's almost another full year, so,
Ed, that their staff is a little thin right now, so.
yeah.
And after I was told that, I'm not gonna call them anymore. They said, just keep on going back and looking at serves, and then you'll know when it's been approved. It's like, okay,
So when we did our initial budget, did we have anything in there for COVID relief?
no.
Nothing in
We
it.
didn't know we were getting any before.
Right.
They could do.
So then we're going to have to make a budget amendment just on that in itself as well, correct?
Right, and that's gonna take care of, yeah.
Yep, okay.
Yeah.
And we've purchased cleaning supplies, computers, lots of technology, lots of things to support what's going on. We've added a counselor, we've added a distance learning teacher. All of those will be covered in this, so it's very helpful to have these dollars. I think we'd be trying to figure out some other things if we didn't have them, but because we do, we're able to put it to good use.
Okay. Any other questions for Jackie? Okay, then we move on to 7.3, approved treasurer's report for August 2020. Are there any questions? Any questions? Okay, Jackie, you want to present on that one?
Sure, not a lot to present, I guess. The cash balance right now is 7.1 million. Last year at this time it was 6.7 million.
Okay,
I mean, it looks good.
okay. Do I have a motion to approve the treasurer's report for August 2020?
Plans, yeah.
So moved.
Second.
Brad and Randy. All those in favor of approving the treasurer's report for August 2020 signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign. Hearing none, motion passes. Move on to 7.4, approve regular bills for September. Are there any questions on the bills?
I had a question on page 25 for the Rudolph Bus Incorporated. There's $679 for disinfectants. Is that something they're charging us all, like, continuously, or
Yes,
every time we get billed?
every month.
Every month?
Yeah, and I'm running that through the COVID funds.
Okay.
So it's going through the
We,
COVID funds.
yeah,
Okay,
that's part of,
okay.
they have to do more cleaning and
Yep.
using disinfectant, and we can use those COVID funds for that, so
Okay.
we said,
And when I talked to them, it's a special disinfectant that something like dries within 24 hours, and that's what they needed.
Okay,
dries in like 5 minutes.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah, you just stick to where the bills are being paid, I'll talk about driving. Don't start 24 hours to dry, no. Come on, Jackie. The reason, what we had disinfectant too, but it left a film and stuff on the bus seats, and so they got some stuff that doesn't do that, that's better, it's a little more expensive, so I said, yeah, they talked with me prior and got prior approval, and I said it made sense to do that, so.
Okay.
Thanks for asking.
Any other questions? Any other questions? Hearing none, do I have a motion to approve payment of the regular bills for September?
so moved.
Katie, do I have a second?
Second.
Brad. All those in favor of approval of paying the regular bills for September signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign. Hearing none, motion passes. Move on to 8. 8.1, board reports and updates. Any of the committees want to comment?
Well, we had one, facilities had one, we talked about the windmill and the solar energy. I think we're just going to decide to maybe do it at the next board meeting, is that what we're thinking?
Yeah, I think we're going to put out for some RFPs and then try to get a good sense of what the whole picture is, and then make a decision kind of all in one,
Yep.
what we want to do with the turbine and if we want to move forward with any other type of solar power or something.
Okay. Facility Steering Committee met this week, toured the new facility, or last week, toured the new facility. It's impressive. Studded walls are up in portions of it, And it really brings perspective as to what the building's going to look like. Some of the outside brick is on now. That too, I mean, just enhances the facility and the design. Then there was a change order, and that was mandatory through the fire suppression system for the old facility, to bring that up to code, correct?
And that's in our action items later, so, yep.
Other than that, it's impressive, and I hope everybody tours it after we're done here. Bill is going to take us on a tour.
We kind of are leaning towards, in the future, holding board meetings in the 5th grade flexible learning area. If we were to get up there to take a look, you'll know why. It's a pretty nice view up there.
Yes, it is. Okay. Anybody else got anything to say? Anybody? Okay, then we'll move on to number 9, Administrator's Report. 9.1, Superintendent's Report.
Enrollment is down under 1,100. I think we're still seeing some homeschooling that is, we would like to be able to offer people distance learning opportunities, but some are choosing the homeschool, so I think that's been taking a little bit of a hit on our enrollment there. So I also wanted to talk a little bit about the Minnesota Department of Health, our decision tree process, because we are 5 weeks in, and we have had to use that decision tree, actually probably more than people realize. We've had a lot of people who have symptoms, so we kind of go through that and who should stay home and who can come to school. And we've had a lot where there is no it's negative tests for COVID. We've also had some positive cases where we've had to send whole classrooms home. And people may wonder, do we just do that as a class in whole, or, but we don't. We actually take some time, go through this case by case, and if we can determine that a class, did not have close contact. We had one class where it's easier with the older kids, but we had one class where we sent 4 students home. But then when we get the younger ones, a kindergarten class, the teacher just says, the nice thing is we're isolated and we keep all these groups in their own cohort group, so we're just sending one class instead of a whole building or a whole grade level home. So that's kind of how things are going there. It's not getting easier the last 2 weeks. Our numbers are popping. I was informed today we're going to be close to 40 on the next go-around. If you recall, 50 was kind of the number, so, but again, we'll be able to work with our regional support group to determine if we can stay in this, where things are at. I think the bigger issues we're facing are more with the high school, just a lot of cases and a lot of things going on there. That's kind of where we're at with that. But this is the decision-making tree, and it does talk a little bit about what close contact is and those types of things. So I don't know if anybody has any questions on kind of what we've been doing. I know sometimes people think, and I know you guys get some calls that, we're just sending everybody home, but we are taking quite a bit of time to go through and make the best decision we can to keep as many kids in school as we can. That's our number one goal, is to not send people home, but sometimes we gotta, so.
Would it be possible to maybe post this on the website for people to see?
You got a mic?
The decision tree?
Can't hear you. Turn your mic on.
Maybe not close enough where it's not.
Oh, yeah, it does, yeah. Okay.
Can we post this on the website for people to have available to see? And then maybe just provide some comments on how we follow this?
Yep.
Can I just add to that, Shelley Mays, when I talked to her with our regional response team, also had a very lengthy document when we were looking at things, to look at every little aspect of the classroom and the different things that our kids are doing and helping and making that decision. That was very helpful. So I know this last class that we sent home, that was also a document that I got that was just newly brought out, so.
And when we have a case, a student or an adult in our building, we have to go online and fill out a report of who and what, who it is and what our learning model is and how things are operating. So it's a pretty extensive, what the Department of Health gets from us to make sure that we are doing all we can to not have this thing get spread out, because everybody's goal is to stay in school. But, yeah.
So when will the public be notified as to what our plan is? Because I know the first month, or the first week of October was our initial plan to let them know what our plan is going forward.
We were going to talk about that tomorrow. I was going to have the teachers' union, and we were going to kind of discuss it. Right now, when I'm looking at our county numbers and what we're dealing with on a day-by-day, it's going to be very difficult to go all in person. I think we're going to end up staying with hybrid probably for, I think the admin team will talk maybe about, do we want to go through Thanksgiving, or do we just want to say the first semester? We've also got, a couple other sports that are going to be starting up right now, and so there's a lot of things that are going to kind of have to be watched. And then the winter sports, there's just going to be a lot going on. I wish our numbers were going down. I mean, when I heard 39 today or 38, I went, geez, because we'd been around 22, 20, 19, and then last week was 17, and I'm going, okay, let's go down to 12 or something, and let's keep working down towards under 10. But now I just got notified today that our next number will be 30, 38, or almost 40. So that makes it kind of hard. And plus all that we're dealing with people and who's got it, and feels like we're just dodging bullets right now. We're lucky, but it could just be that quick where something gets in and where somebody did 2-3 people in every class, and I don't know. We kind of hold our breath every day that we don't get any more phone calls.
Okay.
And,
A question that I get asked a lot is, why do we have to follow this? And I just say that it's a resource that the state is requiring us to follow, and I just want to make sure that that's the correct answer. And what's the best way to explain that?
well, I feel a lot of weight and responsibility for the health and well-being of every adult and every child in this district. And you guys also make decisions. What if someone were to get sick and we just I don't want people to get sick. I don't want people to get really sick. And when you don't have the responsibility or think that way, I get it. I'm not saying anybody's bad for but we
Everybody wants kids.
yes, yeah, this is where when it weighs on, if it weighed on you, what would be your tolerance level? And mine right now, I don't want to. I will do whatever I can to keep as many people healthy and not have this spread and get into everybody's homes, and because we are the melting pot of the community. So this is a big test here, and if we work together and do our best, I think we can have a good school year. But just from the first 5 weeks, I'm guessing this is going to be what we do a lot, because it's out there. So so I don't know what else to say, Randy. I understand people question. I'm sure we could ignore things, but then what?
I think
And I
there's a
don't-
great plan in place, and
Yeah.
I think everyone's doing a great job, so.
I always look at the worst-case scenario, and if someone had to answer, why didn't you do this, and someone got sick, and something really bad happened with that sickness, how would I answer that? how would anybody want to answer that, so,
Okay.
I don't know.
You have anything else then, Kevin?
No, I don't know if you guys, I know you guys get calls and it's tough, I just don't want, we don't have I mean, this helps us, but we still look at each individual case. I work with the principals, sometimes we get everybody together, because not only is it maybe in Tony's building, but then it's also siblings, and so Corey, we gotta kind of communicate, we're learning, one day we didn't let the bus company know, and it was like, oops, that was a mess, we wanted to avoid that again. I think we've got a few other places where we need to, when we go through, we've got to add another communication on our checklist, so we're working to try to be best. And to communicate with our public, we don't just have a blanket decision, it's really what happened in this case and where are things at, so, like I said, I'm getting calls on Saturday nights and Sunday nights from Mr. Strasser. Monday mornings, we're, trying to figure out what would be the best case scenario, and the regional team is really helpful and good. Right now they're going around, I think next week is Marshall test, community testing. And they're doing this, I mean, they were in Waseca. Waseca, their school is wondering when they can get anybody in. They're in distance learning totally because it's just out of control in Waseca. And, other schools have opened and gone to distance learning because it's in their community. So we're fighting to keep it out, but if it gets in, you may have a community testing event here that the Department of Health will come out and do. So I'm trying to avoid that type of thing. Yep. So.
I was just going to mention one more thing. I don't know if it's worth commenting too, because one of the things I'm seeing and hearing is, then why do we mask if you're just going to send a whole classroom home? And I don't know if you want to speak to that too, just to shed some light.
I'm not a health expert. I don't know, but, I mean, everybody is masked, and we have a student who tests positive that was in class, potentially for 2 days. And right now, we've had nobody else in that class tested. Now, is that because they were all wearing their masks? Probably. If they weren't wearing, we'll find out. The other class, it's still too early to tell. We're concerned because mask wearing wasn't maybe as good as it should have been in that classroom. So I hope that everything's okay, but I think what we're seeing is it's much more limited in how it spreads when we are wearing the mask. So I'm seeing that that's very important, but you're a health professional, you probably would agree.
Right. I would agree, yes. Yes.
So, and we're getting used to it, and everybody's getting better at it, and, we're starting to fall into a groove, I think, a little bit, so. Even all of us, I'm seeing less touching of the mask and less fiddling with it. We're getting better with it, so. It's important.
I got a question, Kevin. Some people have asked me, on the 2 sports that are coming on,
Yep.
how many people can be there? Do the kids get 2 tickets, or does that count all the players, the refs?
The volleyball, the indoor, there will be nobody allowed to watch.
Okay.
The only people there will be the teams and then any staff that's needed to run the game. So there could be media there or something that could be there for that. For the outdoor activities, for a football, I think they're saying 250 people. That does not include the teams. They do ask that the teams try to limit, so sometimes you'll see freshmen who will never play, dress while they're trying to keep it to your essential players, so you may see a little bit smaller team out there. I believe cheerleaders are allowed, pep bands and such. It's kind of one of those schools are really weighing, do we really need the pep band there. And then I think our conference is talking about trying to do 2 to 4, or I think it's 2 or 3 passes per player, 2. So, and then you have to have the away team, and so
Right.
we're trying to, it'll be limited that way.
Okay.
No concession stands. It's going to be very, very much, very limiting, so.
Okay.
That's right now what the idea is.
And is that what the Minnesota High School League is recommending or mandating or?
That's the Department of Health's youth sports
Okay.
guidance on activities. And, I think the league has some guidance that they've come out with also for that. So there's things for coaches and practices and all of that stuff too, so,
Thanks.
yep.
Anything else? Okay, and we'll move on to 9.2, Principals Board Report. Tony?
Yeah, things are going very well. These last 5 weeks, we're excited that we're still in school for 5 weeks and hoping that that is able to continue. We have finished fast testing, and I'm sure Melanie will probably talk a little bit more on that. And so we are able to now start doing some reading core and that kind of stuff in our buildings. So and use some of those services. We finished our title, just doing some revisions on some of that for our title grant, and yeah, that's about it, so.
Okay, anybody have questions for Tony? Any questions for Tony?
Are we thinking about moving the school bus lines, pickup and drop off away from the end of the street there? I just worry about once winter gets here, about it being really out in the open and to be a issue
Do you mean
along that
along
street.
Brown there?
What?
Along Brown? Mm-hmm. Yes, we already actually changed that.
Oh.
We
Must have
started that
just-
today, actually.
Oh, I was to say, because last week there's still.
Yep.
Okay.
Yep. So we started that today for that
Perfect.
very reason.
Okay.
Plus, they're going to be starting construction on that road, so there's
Yeah.
a lot of reasons. And it was far away from the building, and
Okay. Perfect.
so we, created a loop. Cal and I went out there and worked on some things, and
Okay.
I think we got a better setup, so that'll work a lot easier.
Okay, and we'll move on to Corey.
Well, good evening. A few things that I'd like to bring up. First, academically, our students have been at the middle level. We've been working through fast testing, which is a big part of our intervention and our prime time, our win time and our prime time. So we're excited to kind of dig into that data, utilize that in the next step of utilizing our win time. So that's a big piece. Our students are slated to take the ACT on October 6th, and Mel, I don't know if you were going to bring these things up or not, but this is carryover from last year when they weren't able to, and Melanie put together the opportunity to do this at the Hiawatha Lodge. So that's a big deal for our kids to be able to take the ACT finally. So we're hoping that that comes together, and that's on next Tuesday. Yes, 1 week from today. Overall, I do feel like our teachers and our students are getting used to the routine. It seems, it's really fun watching the middle school one day, because when we open the doors at 8 o'clock, they are in their classrooms, and the high school kids, when they come, they are not. They wait till 8:10, and then they go, which is pretty typical. It's just really easy to see now when they're separated, so that's kind of fun. But I do feel like we're in a pretty good routine now. One of the, a couple of the big things going on, we've got our homecoming festivities, and the intent wasn't to do it over 4 weeks, but
I
when
thank
you
you
look
for
at
that.
trying to, yes, once the toilet paper started coming, I was really rethinking the whole process, but just trying to give kids something, because the sense is that they're missing out on so much, and to bring some semblance of spirit and just unifyingness to our high school. We've tried to do a few things. in the gym in about a 15-minute time frame at the end of our Thursdays. We're going to try to keep doing that. It is a challenge because kids have a hard time not spacing, even when we ask and say, hey, you know, sit here and so forth. But we've got some good plans coming up, so hopefully we can kind of wrap up the next 2 Thursdays with a few activities. And then coordination is a big deal, and we're looking at that for next Monday night. We're not going to have anybody except the parents here of the royalty court, and we're hoping to do that in here. I was working with Ms. Sullivan on how we're going to make it fit our COVID guidelines with our spacing and just general safety measures. And I think we can do it. We've kind of mapped out some different ways in which to make coordination happen, along with some live streaming options so that our community and students can still see the event in real time. So that's coming next Monday. We are excited. I know you mentioned the sports seasons, the football and volleyball. That actually plays in really well with our typical homecoming week, where we have coordination on Monday and then a home volleyball and a home football for our kids. You know, even with not having fans in place, at least they're here and they're competing, and that's a positive step. So we are excited for those things to be on the horizon here. Let's see. Oh, this Thursday. Worked with the high school, and because of our block schedule, we felt it was important that we met with parents to the best that we can. And on Thursday night, we are going to try a parent-teacher conference night just for the high school. So we feel that that will help limit the numbers of people coming in the building, and we'll set up our spacings, and our teachers already have access to the cleaning materials, but we will have those things in place and work with parents who choose to come in to visit with their teachers. We want to encourage that as much as possible, but we feel with the way the block schedule is set up and that the quarter ends on October 23rd, that this was a good opportunity to keep that communication going and establish some of those connections that we feel are very important. So we're working at that and putting that in place for this Thursday night. Those are the main things that I have. So yeah, any questions for me?
How's your attendance been for the on days, off days?
It's a mix. You know, some days I have teachers say, yeah, I had 18 out of 20 kids show up, which is a win for us. It really is. Obviously, we want 100% attendance, but some days I hear that. Other days, teachers are like, oh, it's a struggle getting kids to show up today. So we're really kind of up and down. For a while, it seemed like Fridays were the biggest challenge, and Mondays tend to work pretty well because a lot of teachers will do a Zoom right away on Monday morning, and kids are coming off a weekend, they're actually showing up. Last Friday, a few teachers I talked to said they had really good Friday attendance. So I don't know if there's a rhyme or reason to it yet, but it is the biggest concern, in my opinion, and I think in our teachers, because the challenge of teaching in person and then distance basically at the same time, and then kids who aren't showing up to either, now you're chasing a third and trying to track them down and work with them. It just makes it very, very challenging at those levels. So
are there consequences for not coming like there would be in a normal school day?
yes.
Okay,
Yeah, part of it depends on the reason for the absence,
right.
and the communication is a little more challenging this year, just there's a little more flexibility with oh, my kid's taking a distance learning day, they're not feeling good, so they stay home. Even though, is it something we have to look at on the decision tree? So there's just a lot of ambiguity with attendance in general. And we have had a number of students who have moved to 100% distance learning. And then we've got several students who are in the quarantine protocol. So yeah, it's kind of all over. The truancy process is a challenge because our court system and our social workers on that end have been pretty straightforward in saying that there's not going to be much going on the truancy level this year. So it does kind of strap us.
That's too bad. I worry about kids falling behind, getting lost in the cracks.
Very much, yes.
And as if you don't have enough to do, but have you guys reached out to other districts to see how their levels are or what they're doing for interventions?
I don't have specific data from other districts. I have a lot of frustrated colleagues.
Yep. So I mean, you guys you're at least reaching out to each other and visiting about it.
Yes.
Okay.
It's not just common to us. It's everywhere.
Right. Okay, any further questions for Corey?
If there is a attendance problem, does it rely on the parents to have to go look on that parent view, or does the school send out an email?
We still send out, we typically do notifications at 7 and 10 days at the high school level.
Okay.
I think in the middle school might be 5 and 10. And so we will continue to do that. We're moving more away from paper. We typically send a letter home we've had more success with emails. And then working with my counselors to follow up with attendance as well as myself.
So they'd have to miss 7 days before they get any sort of alert?
That's just total absences.
Okay.
No, we monitor, and
Okay.
if we have cause for concern, typically if they're at 7, we would know, did they go to the state fair for 4 days? Okay.
Right.
Not a big deal. So we do look at those, and we have an idea
Okay.
on who we should be contacting before it's 7, because when you look at the difference between total absences and then unexcused, which kicks in our pre-truancy, we've had quite a few conversations recently about pre-truancy and had a few of those meetings already.
Okay. Any other questions? Any other questions? Okay, if none, we'll move on to 9.3, Director of CTL report. Mel?
Good evening, everyone. Thank you for being here, and thank you for masking up. We all appreciate it. We have been busy the past 2 weeks fast testing our kindergarten through 8th grade students. Primarily, most of the testing happened in this building. It was up to some of the middle school teachers if they wanted to do that testing virtually on their virtual time and use their in-class time for something else, other teaching that was important at that moment. So far, I am meeting starting today with each grade level team and reviewing their data with them. So I don't have a report for you. I will do that at our next board meeting because I want our staff to digest that data before I share with everyone. As Mr. Strasser said, the ACT for the seniors will take place on October 6th. We are doing it at the lodge, the Hiawatha Lodge. I spent some time out there today making sure that I had enough room for 21 8-foot tables with 2 chairs each with enough space behind and around them. They will have breakfast brought to them for their first break. They will also have the option of either bringing their own lunch or having taher brought out to them for the meal that day. All of the students who are signed up have been communicated with as far as a tentative agenda. They've been asked if they want to have the lunch and if they need transportation from the high school to the lodge. I've also spent grand amount of time with staff, helping them locate, procure, and use different types of technology, whether they used a piece of technology or a service last spring that was free, which now they have reached their capacity of storage or what have you. They now need to have the upgraded version in order to keep using it. So we're spending time learning lots of different modes of technology, and having staff think ahead. Do you have enough textbooks for, say, a novel that you're planning to read with your class, that each student could take one home, so that you don't have to teach 2 different novels to the 2 different sections of students you have in a particular time. So just helping them think differently, think to the future and what we can do. Our PLC time, like you'll know, we canceled our first PLC, but we still had PLC for our high school staff that day because their students were distance learning. So we asked that they finish up with their students by 1:45, and then we worked with them on grading, assessments, in hybrid, in a block, how they can use that time differently, how they can grade differently, what they can do with the different resources that they have. We also took some of that time to share some tips and tricks within Google Classroom and a couple other of the services that we use universally. And then our October 7th PLC, our elementary will be receiving their second step of training on their MyMath curriculum, which will all be virtual for them, so no one comes here and they aren't going anyplace. So they're looking forward to that because they're getting to use it and they're getting to ask questions and they're getting to wonder, how come this doesn't work, or how do I make that work? And so we're excited for them to have that type of training coming up. The middle school will try and do like we did with the high school to get them some time on a day where their students are distance so that we can give them that support as well in that time. It's really, what I'm hearing from staff is they value learning from one another and they value the time that we can give them to do the job that they need to do. Some people may think that distance learning is easy. You don't have kids in front of you, but our staff are consistently and constantly communicating with our students on distance learning days. So it's not like they teach for 90 minutes and then they're done for the day. It just continues on. And to do things differently, it takes longer. And so our staff appreciate the time and support that they receive. I just wanted to say a shout out to the 7th grade class. I don't know if any of you had a little treat in your front door, that we are appreciated. That brightened my day. And I hope that that 7th grade class can really do what they said and be the change. Does anyone have any questions?
Any questions for Mel? Any questions? I guess not. Thank you, Mel. Move on to 10, discussion items. Number 10.1, Minnesota State High School League fees.
Each year, the Minnesota State High School League has a fee. Schools have to pay so much per activity and so much per student. They did raise those fees, which they haven't done for a few years because they're having some financial issues. They also added a secondary fee to every school that will be paid in 2 installments, one in November and one in February. And I attached that information and have kind of shared that with you. And you saw the letter as to why they were doing this. Due to COVID and not having state tournaments, they lost an awful lot of revenue. But this has been building up for a few years. There's some management issues with the league, and so, they have to get some things straightened out. Now, with these fees, these secondary fees, they came up with a kind of a fee schedule, and they have 6 different classifications. And for the largest schools in the state of Minnesota, the 64 largest, Their fees range, they have an $11,000 fee that they pay in 2 installments. This adds up to be about $3.30 to $8 per pupil is what their cost is. Then they have the next 64 schools. They have a $9,000 fee they pay in 2 installments. This adds up to be about a $7.50 to $15 range. The next 128 smaller schools pay $7,000 in 2 installments. This is a range of $12.50 to $34 per student. You see in here, like, the smaller you are, the more you pay per student. There's been an awful lot of angst by the superintendents and by school districts in rural Minnesota about this plan. They do not feel it's fair. I will say that as the Big South Conference superintendents, we sent a letter to the league board of directors and to the executive director and stated that we did not agree with this fee statement and that it needs to be equitable, and that we asked for, we've been asking to have a superintendent representative on the board of directors. So that is kind of where things have been at. Now, each individual school, when they've been having their board meetings, this has been discussed. And so it's October and we're on our regular board meeting, so I'm bringing this to you. There are boards that are saying they will not pay this fee until there is a more equitable way to assess these fees. We're not saying, we understand there's financial hardship. We're a member of the league, and so the league is all of us schools. So if there's bad management, that needs to be dealt with, but you also got a bill that you got to pay. So that's kind of where things are at. So I just don't, that's kind of what I have to say. I don't know if you have anything to add, anybody, or if the board as a whole would like to. We haven't got this bill yet, but it will come in November. But if you would choose to don't want to pay this as this is, I can most certainly send a letter on behalf of Pipestone Area Schools to the league saying my board said they aren't interested in paying this unequitable fee. So, thoughts?
Well, and that's something I think we should do, and as a board, and then have each board member sign it as well. Just stating that this isn't equitable, and because I think, they proclaim everybody gets the same services.
Yeah.
So the small schools shouldn't have to pay any more than the large schools. So it should be equitable across the board as to whether you got 10 students or 5,000 students. Right. Should be the same dollar amount.
I think I figured out our payment was like $33 a pupil unit for our fee.
So if you want to, in my opinion, and the rest of the board can weigh in,
I'm with you.
Yeah.
put a letter together, and when we can all get a chance to sign it and send it in.
Do we need a motion? And
I would say, yeah.
Probably would need a motion on that. Somebody want to make a motion?
I make a motion that we do not pay that until it's fair for all school districts throughout the state.
Second.
Okay, Brad and Randy, any further discussion? Or Brad and Lance, I'm sorry. Any further discussion?
What happens if nobody pays Kevin and they're belly up?
Well, it is the league, so all member schools are responsible for it's kind of like, I suppose, like your church. If you have, all the members are responsible for the financial. It's kind of like the co-op is a member, all schools make up the co-op. If something happens with the co-op, the schools are still financially responsible, so it isn't where it's just going to go away, but.
I see it'll get paid. Let's just force the hand to make it fair.
If it's supposed to be, if you look at all the students, if it's $12 a pupil, we should pay the same as Eden Prairie. I don't think they should pay $4 a kid.
I mean, it's pretty easy
We pay
math.
$34 a kid.
What is their reasoning, or when they talk about, what is their reasoning behind it?
for the...
For charging, like, bigger schools less money per student and,
Well, it's the financial task force put this together. I don't know how well they thought through this. I think this is all a sign of leadership. You know, we did dig in and find out who all the schools were that were on this financial task force, and I will tell you that more of them were the larger schools than the smaller schools. So, again, and I know at the board of director level, there has been great discussion, and it isn't a unanimous agreement. They've had split votes on this stuff, so but right now, superintendents across the state are just really upset with this, and I think having school boards also express their, because I've talked with MSBA also, and they're hearing from the rural schools that we don't appreciate this. We'll pay our fair share, but let's have it be fair.
right.
Yep.
Don't put this on, because when you go down the list, I mean, you can just see it just gets to be a higher rate, and that class, that next smallest class, there's people paying $50 a pupil, you know. Shouldn't have to be that way.
Nope.
I will put together a letter, and I will put all of the board members, and we'll have you all sign it, and we'll figure that out.
Okay. So we've got a motion and a second. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign. Hearing none, motion passes. Move on to 10.2, 10.3, and 10.4. 10.2 is first reading of certified staff seniority lists 2020-2021. 10.3 is first reading of paraprofessional seniority lists 2020-2021. And 10.4 is first reading of secretary, custodian, and AP seniority list 2020-2021. It's a non-action item, so...
We have to do this every year, and we usually give it 2 readings. We have the employees check over to make sure that everything is correct. If there's any questions, we'll get it updated for the next one and next board meeting, and then the school board will adopt those.
Okay. Then we move on to number 11, which requires board action. 11.1, approve snow removal quotes for 2020-2021. Is there any discussion? Any discussion? Hearing none, do I have a motion to approve the snow removal quotes?
So moved.
Katie, do I have a second?
Who are you approving with? There were 2 quotes.
Hold on a second.
Right.
I move that we accept the Outlaw Customs. They've done a good job in the past, and they are the best bid.
We've got all the equipment.
I
Second,
didn't see the other one.
Okay,
for Outlaw Customs.
Okay, so the motion is to approve Outlaw Customs. Katie made the motion, and Lance, did you second it?
Yes, sir.
Okay. All those in favor of approval of the snow removal quote for 2020-2021 with Outlaw Customs signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed, same sign. Hearing none, motion passes. 11.2, memorandum of agreement with South Dakota State University. Kevin?
This is just for us to have student teachers in our classrooms from SDSU. We typically do this every year, so recommend approval.
Is there any further discussion? Any further discussion? So can I have a motion to approve memorandum of agreement with South Dakota State?
So moved.
Randy, do I have a second?
Second.
I'll just add, this isn't exclusive. I mean, Southwest State or any other university can also have student teachers here, so it's not a...
Okay. All those in favor of approving the memorandum of agreement with South Dakota State signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign. Hearing none, motion passes. Move on to 11.3, certified proposed levy limitation and certificate report for 2020, payable 2021, and to set the Truth and Taxation meeting on December 21, 2020 at 7 p.m. Is there any discussion with that one?
If I could just, you know, this is a 2-part process. This is how the school district sets the levies and taxes for fiscal year 21. And then we actually get these revenues in fiscal year 22, correct?
We record them as revenue for the fiscal year.
Okay. So we have this, we set it at this point of the maximum, and then over the next month and a half, 2 months, we will get together and prepare for the truth in taxation, which is when you actually approve this levy for the taxes. Jackie put together a nice sheet that shows you where changes have occurred. This is about a 2.3% increase. Much of it has to do with changes in different types of equalizations and assessments and those types of things. As a school district, I don't think there's nothing in here that we're raising that you have determined. It's all basically, unemployment insurance and OPEB levy, and those are just based on things that are outside of our control. So that's why there's an increase.
Okay, any questions? Okay,
Anything else to add, Jackie?
And then we would have to approve the maximum tonight?
Yep.
Will we need that with a dollar amount?
No. You can just approve the maximum, and then I'll run back to my office and I put out something from the Department of Ed. And that actually won't even have any numbers on it, I'll just say the school board approved the maximum. And then in December, when it's approved, that's when you approve the specific dollar amounts.
And that one can go down, but it cannot increase.
Correct. Yes.
Okay.
Unless you would happen to be a school that has an operating levy or whatnot, there's specific circumstances, but we aren't.
You can't go above the maximum. We kind of have what this is here, but there's also, we don't know what could happen between now and then. And if something changes, we do have the ability to change these numbers. So we just ask for approval of the maximum so that we can move forward with this.
Okay?
It's what we've always done every year.
Yep, it's common.
I'm going to run back and put that off and you guys discuss the next thing, so.
Okay. So, is there any other questions for
We'll
me?
be done before you're back.
Any other questions?
Okay.
Hearing none, can I have a motion?
You better go.
To approve the amount and date of meeting and time?
So moved.
Okay, you want to state your motion though, Katie?
Oh, okay. I move that we set the Truth in Taxation meeting on December 21st, 2020 at 7 PM.
And the amount?
Oh, and do the, approve the maximum amount. Sorry, I didn't know it was
Okay.
only one.
For the levy.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Seconded by Randy. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign. Hearing none, motion passes. Approve change order request for Thompson Electric, 11.4. Kevin?
This is a change order in the amount of, was it $35,000?
I believe so.
So that's above what I could approve, so just the board has to do this. This comes from the inspection of this building and some of the updates that needed to be made, and they have to put a fire alarm in the ventilation system, I believe.
Yep.
And that's the wiring and the cost of doing this, so,
And it had to do with the dampeners in
yeah, so.
there.
It's one of those we have to do, so I recommend approval.
Okay. Any questions for Kevin on that one? Any questions? Hearing none. Do I have a motion to approve the change order request for Thompson Electric? Randy, do I have a second? Brad? Okay. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign. Motion passes. I would like to recognize and thank for the September gifts. True Value Foundation for donation of health and safety kit value of $700. Christ the King Lutheran Church donation of $100 to the Wellness Room. Gray Township, a donation of $5,250 to the coronavirus relief. And Terry G. Peterson, donation of $100 to the Minders Community Library. Thank you to everybody for their donations. So do I have a motion to adjourn? So moved. Lance, do I have a second?
Second.
Randy, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign. Hearing none, motion passes. Meeting adjourned.